Choices, hard, tough choices. We make them, then we have to live with them. Whether to buy a new home, where to vacation, budgeting the family income, how much to spend, where, a new job. These are choices facing every Wisconsin citizen. One choice many Wisconsin people have had to make recently is to leave our state. More and more of our citizens, from experienced workers to recent graduates, are forced away today in search of jobs. Many others have had to accept lower-paying jobs in order to remain here. One reason so many state citizens have had to make these difficult choices is that Wisconsin state government itself has not made some tough but necessary decisions. How much to spend, where to spend it, and how much to tax. These governmental choices directly impact our lives and our jobs. What choices has Wisconsin government made? Let's take a look. Made in Wisconsin is a label buyers can trust worldwide. Yet 90,000 Wisconsin manufacturing jobs have been lost since 1979 and never replaced. Overall, Wisconsin is missing nearly 200,000 jobs that matching nationwide growth would have created. Enough jobs to employ every worker in 23 Wisconsin counties. Many new jobs are also at lower wages. Wisconsin, the star of the snow belt in the 70s, is struggling in the 80s.
I was a superintendent in this plant for 25 years. I now am working at the present job I'm at, which is providing me with at least less than half of what I normally made. This plant was closed in 1982 due to the economy, the lack of the demand for our product, and foreign competition. Prices were trimmed somewhat, but the total demand for our product just was not there. And we do have other manufacturing facilities, and those were used, and this plant was closed. And as far as I know, we'll never open again to produce the product we did at that time. I'm sure that the tax structure and climate here in Wisconsin had a very big bearing on our management's decision to close this plant.
Some businesses just withered and died in Wisconsin, unable to beat competitors from other states or nations. But sometimes plants or expansions left, lured away by other states where they could do business more profitably.
When we expanded our business, we had to decide whether we would stay in Wisconsin or look elsewhere. And one of the factors that was affecting our ability to grow the business was the obtaining of good electrical engineering talent. We had problems getting electrical design engineers into our area, primarily because of two factors. One was weather, which we can't do anything about here in Wisconsin, and the other one was the tax situation. The state income tax bite that it would take out of their paychecks was dramatically impacting them compared to other opportunities they had in other states and other businesses. So we chose to move to North Carolina and have been very successful in obtaining good engineering talent. Businesses are fragile. Most people don't think that when they look at a big business and all the assets that are involved, but most corporations don't make more than 3 to 5% of the bottom line after taxes in good years. And when you're dealing with that thin a margin, taxes can have a tremendous impact on the success of a corporation. Taxes can take a big bite. You spend a lot of time dealing with the tax issues and its impact on your corporation. A tax climate is very important to a business, a good tax climate.
Of course, some businesses are doing well in Wisconsin, while others have managed to cope. But the real problem is those businesses struggling to start, survive, or grow. Now, they spell the difference between jobs for all or only jobs for some.
We employ about 85 people here at Engineering Industries, and I think we're typical of many of the small companies in Wisconsin, where almost 80% of the new jobs are created by companies with less than 100 employees.
When small business goes sour in Wisconsin, our communities suffer. In 1985, Wisconsin dropped to 46th place in creating new businesses. In other words, 45 other states were more successful in creating new businesses and the jobs that go with them. In fact, in 1985, Wisconsin was the only state in the Midwest to see an actual decline in the number of new businesses formed. Our neighbor state, Michigan, improved 12% in new business startups. And Michigan was not alone. The average increase for all states in 1985 was 5%. Here in Wisconsin, we fell 2%. Of course, larger companies are also vitally important to our economy, providing many jobs and about 60% of our state's total sales volume. And like small businesses, they too have been suffering. Well, why this loss of businesses and jobs in Wisconsin from those golden days of the 70s to the hard times of today?
Well, there was a national recession, changing technologies, and international trade policies in general, but other states overcame these very same problems. Wisconsin's difference and trouble begins with state spending. Simply put, Wisconsin's government has been spending far more than it can afford. Spending more means taxing more. Those higher taxes represent a penalty that many managers and workers in business here cannot afford. Simply put, higher taxes mean fewer jobs.
This graph helps illustrate our problem. That moving line that you see shows the ability of Wisconsin citizens to pay for state and local tax spending. You can see that over the period 1975 through 1979, we stayed pretty consistent with the rest of the nation in our ability to meet that burden. After that point in time, however, we lost our ability to pay. That was as a result of our eroding tax base. We were losing jobs, we were losing businesses. And to the extent we did replace those jobs and businesses, they were with less profitable operations or jobs that paid lower wages. And that's the heart of the problem.
So what would happen if this were your family? Your annual income drops nearly 15%, say by $3,000.
Yes, it would change the way I spend money, and the fact that the things that I sometimes buy just out of pleasure and things that I really don't need, I would stop and just get the necessities that, it would take for me to survive.
I'd put that new car on the side.
Would have to think twice before I would purchase something that I don't really need.
I cut back on my travel and cut back on some of my leisure time activities.
I would obviously have to cut back in spending.
Cut back on spending? Not your state government. Instead, more spending. Higher taxes. Look at how hard we tax ourselves in Wisconsin. That top line skyrockets to 137. Wisconsin's state and local tax effort is third highest among all the states. Third. That's how our government handled the income loss. Since 1979, the gap between our ability to pay for government and our tax effort has exploded.
It's simple, common logic. If any business spent more money than it took in as income, we'd go bankrupt. And it's the same with Wisconsin government. Wisconsin is clearly spending more than its citizens can afford to pay.
But blame shouldn't be put on any one political party. Look at spending increases within the last 6 budgets, with both Democrats and Republicans in power at one time or another. Almost all of these budget increases surpass the rate of inflation, and they also far surpass the average increase in the incomes of our businesses and taxpayers. What is state government buying with your tax dollars? Well, 3 areas account for around 70% of the spending done here in the legislature: the University of Wisconsin system, aid to local government and schools, and aid to individuals. In spite of Wisconsin's relatively small population, the UW system is the nation's 4th largest university system, larger than those in bigger states such as Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or Florida. This world-class university system comes as a world-class bargain for students. Tuition is far below most comparable schools in the nation, but your taxes pay the tuition difference for those bargain-hunting students. Other medium-sized states don't attempt to educate the huge numbers of students annually as Wisconsin does. For example, Washington State has roughly the same population as Wisconsin, but only 80,000 students are accepted on 6 public 4-year campuses. This compares to 150,000 students and 13 four-year public campuses in Wisconsin. Is the state of Washington neglecting higher education? Or is Wisconsin simply trying to do too much? State aid to local governments and schools is another area where Wisconsin does much more than most states. The state consistently ranks in the top 10 in collecting tax money and then redistributing that money among local governments and schools. State money given to local governments is sometimes called property tax relief. But how many times have you seen your property tax relieved in the last several years?
They haven't gone down the last 40 years.
My property taxes have gone up, and the price of my house has gone down.
They pretend like it shows up every year on your tax bill, but I'm kind of skeptical on that. You know, they show that the state is trying to give you some money back, saying discount $390 from the state on a $2,000 tax bill. It's hard to believe, especially when your baseline property tax continues to go up.
Still, they keep going up, up, up.
I think we're getting ripped.
Finally, social spending is another area where Wisconsin is a trendsetter. Wisconsin consistently ranks among the top 10 states nationally in public welfare spending, including aid to families with dependent children and medical assistance. While debate exists whether Wisconsin is a welfare magnet, attracting low-income people from other states, there's little doubt about Wisconsin's generosity. Our AFDC benefits are more than 40% above the national average. And while some states are surely neglecting the disadvantaged, Wisconsin still outspends every other Midwest state. For example, the average recipient of aid for dependent children in Wisconsin receives almost $200 more each month than the same person across the border in Illinois. Are our Midwest neighbors neglecting the less fortunate, or is Wisconsin again trying to do too much? Obviously, there's a lot more to the state budget than the few brief examples we've looked at so far. But these examples illustrate how Wisconsin overspends. No one denies the importance of providing good state services. But unfortunately, we have more causes than we have cash to support them. As Wisconsin citizens, we are 2% of the nation's population. We have average incomes. In contrast, would you believe we rank 6th highest nationally in state personal income taxes? Despite the modest state income tax cut of 1985, Wisconsin's income tax is still almost 35% higher than our Midwest neighbors. Not only does that prevent small business creation and job growth, it also prevents hard cash from reaching the pockets of our state citizens. For example, a Wisconsin family of 4 with an income of $20,000 pays $287 more in state income taxes than the identical Illinois family. Enough money for 2 months of car payments. A Wisconsin family of 4, which makes $35,000, pays $1,532 more than its Indiana counterpart. Enough for 2 weeks of vacation in northern Wisconsin.
High state spending doesn't just mean high income taxes. Unemployment taxes are also excessive, and many people leave Wisconsin to avoid our higher inheritance and capital gains taxes. Some people move their businesses out of Wisconsin, while others move after they retire, taking with them valuable savings that could be used to refinance and support additional businesses. Either way, Wisconsin taxpayers are the losers.
Compare Wisconsin to Illinois or Indiana, to Michigan or Ohio. Compare Wisconsin to almost any other state and then ask yourself, why does Wisconsin spend and tax so much more? Are we so much richer that we can better afford it? Are these other states neglecting the needs of their citizens? Or is Wisconsin again simply trying to do too much? Choices. We make them every day. We choose our line of work. We choose how to spend our money. We choose where to live.
Running a business is the same way. You choose your product, decide how to pay for it, and where to build it. Just as you can personally move from Wisconsin to another state, so can a business and its jobs.
State government is also a matter of choice. We have lost and never replaced 90,000 manufacturing jobs. we are missing 200,000 jobs we should have created. Our performance in starting new business is among the worst in the nation. Employers are finding it difficult to compete in Wisconsin, and workers want to keep their jobs in the state. Have your elected officials asked you what you think? Chances are the answer is no. It's up to you to speak out. Is it time to restrain spending on the UW system, state aids, social welfare spending? Is it time to cut income taxes, inheritance taxes, capital gains taxes? Is it time to make Wisconsin a trendsetter in creating jobs instead of a trendsetter in social welfare programs? It's your choice. Talk to your state representative, senator, and even governor. Tell them it's time to cut spending and taxes. And tell them where. Tell them in person or tell them by voting. Tell them it's time to make a choice.